Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be exploring the fascinating world of quantum wellness. You know, it's a little out there, but that's why we're here, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes you got to head into the unknown to uncover something amazing.
Exactly. So we're mainly diving into Resonance Reborn. It's this ebook claiming to unlock optimal health and energy all through this super structured 21-day program. But we're also going to be looking at some blog posts about how quantum elements and spirituality might be connected. Should be interesting to see what shakes out, right?
Yeah, I mean, are these quantum connections legit or just, new age buzz?
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Right. Okay, so Resonance Reborn. It's basically trying to bring together quantum mechanics, pH balance, and holistic living. They even have a whole program based on this idea of grounding, resonance, and integration. It's, what's your initial take on the whole thing? Because I know you were a bit skeptical going in.
Well, yeah, some of the claims, they seem a bit far-fetched at first.
Yeah.
But what I found really interesting is that they're using real scientific principles, even if the way they connect them is still, well, up for debate.
Like quantum mechanics, for example. I mean, that's some pretty heavy stuff
Yeah.
for those of us who don't have physics degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you give us a quick breakdown of what quantum mechanics even is?
Okay, so imagine the tiniest building blocks of the universe, right? Way smaller than atoms. Quantum mechanics basically studies how energy and matter act at that level, and things get really weird down there. Particles can be in multiple states at once. They can influence each other instantly across huge distances. It's pretty wild stuff.
Wild is an understatement. But how does that relate to our bodies?
That's where it gets really cool, actually. Our bodies are incredibly complex networks of energy and information, right? So think about it. Our cells communicate, energy flows through us, all of that, it's happening at the quantum level. At least that's what this ebook argues. They're saying that if we can understand these quantum principles, we can actually optimize how our bodies work.
So they're saying our bodies are doing quantum physics all the time.
In a way, yeah. And one of the big things they focus on is this idea of entanglement. Basically, you have two particles and they're linked, even if they're miles apart. Anything that happens to one instantly affects the other.
Okay, I've heard of that. It's like spooky action at a distance, right?
Exactly. So imagine that happening inside our bodies. This book, Resonance Reborn, suggests that entanglement might be how our cells are able to coordinate everything so quickly and efficiently. It's how they're talking to each other across our whole system.
It's like our bodies have their own little quantum internet going on.
Right.
Okay, that's entanglement. But they also talk a lot about pH balance. You know, the whole thing about the body being too acidic or alkaline.
Right, and they put a lot of emphasis on that. They say that being too acidic messes with our body's quantum resonance, and that can lead to low energy and even, health problems down the line.
And they're big on the alkaline diet, right? I saw they even have a whole 21-day meal plan in the book.
Yeah, they emphasize foods like leafy greens and fruits, things that are supposed to make your body more alkaline.
So are they saying that eating your vegetables can actually change something at a quantum level in your body?
Well, that's where the skepticism comes in.
Right.
We know that pH affects our health. That's established science. But this direct link between food, alkalinity, and impacting our quantum resonance, that needs more research. But even if we forget about the quantum stuff for a second, a balanced whole foods diet, it's good for you no matter what.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like they've taken this basic truth, our bodies need balance, and built this whole quantum narrative around it. And speaking of balance, they're really into Tai Chi in this book, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're all about Tai Chi. And it's not just about the physical exercise for them.
Right. It's about cultivating chi, right? Life force energy, all that stuff that sounds kind of,
Yeah, no, a little out there.
Exactly. I mean, were you convinced by any of it?
Well, what I will say is this. They do try to connect that chi idea to how we understand energy flow in the body today.
Okay, so what? Do we have invisible energy fields they're tapping into? How does that work?
Think of it this way. Our bodies are constantly buzzing with electrical activity. Your brain's firing, heart's beating, muscles are doing their thing. All that generates these subtle electromagnetic fields.
Okay, so it's not magic. It's more like bioelectricity or something.
Exactly. And the book's saying that the slow movements of Tai Chi, the breathing, the focus, it all helps regulate those internal rhythms so you feel more balanced inside.
Interesting. And they're connecting this to that resonance idea from quantum mechanics, aren't they? Like finding the right frequency.
They are. They actually say that by doing Tai Chi, you're basically tuning your body like an instrument to find that perfect state of resonance where everything's vibrating in harmony.
I kind of love that analogy. But they also claim it can boost your immune system. That's a pretty bold statement.
It is, and I was definitely skeptical. But they actually cite some studies looking at how Tai Chi seemed to increase immune cell activity and even reduce the risk of some illnesses.
So there's actually evidence that Tai Chi could be good for your immune system.
It's still early days for that research, and it's important to remember that correlation doesn't mean causation, right?
Right, just because something happens at the same time doesn't mean one caused the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it does suggest that there might be something there, even if we don't fully understand how it works yet.
It's fascinating how they're trying to blend this ancient practice with modern science. It's like they're grounding, no pun intended, some of these more out there ideas in something tangible.
Yeah, I get that. It makes it a bit more palatable, maybe, for people who are on the fence about the whole quantum thing.
So we've talked about grounding Tai Chi. What else is part of this quantum wellness lifestyle they're proposing?
Well, this is where we start to shift from the physical to the mental. Remember those blog posts you mentioned about quantum elements and spirituality?
Oh yeah, those were something else. Especially that one on quantum kinesis. That our thoughts can directly affect reality. Is there any actual science behind that, or is it just, wishful thinking?
It definitely pushes the boundaries of conventional science, that's for sure. The basic idea of quantum kinesis is that our thoughts, our intentions, can actually impact the physical world at a quantum level.
Wait, so are we talking about telekinesis, like moving things with our minds?
Not quite. It's more subtle than that. They're linking it to this thing called the observer effect in quantum physics.
Okay, remind me about that again.
Basically, when you're observing a quantum system, like an electron, just the act of observing it can actually change how it behaves. Like your observation becomes part of the experiment.
Okay, yeah, that's where it starts to get kind of trippy.
Right. And so this blog post is basically saying that our consciousness, our thoughts, are always interacting with the quantum field. And by focusing our intentions, we can influence the probabilities within that field.
So not controlling reality, but maybe influencing it, like giving it a nudge in a certain direction.
That's a good way to put it. The idea is that our thoughts and intentions create ripples of energy, and those ripples can potentially affect things in our lives.
Okay, so if this quantum kinesis thing is real, that's huge. And the blog post talked about that, didn't it? Like, both the good and the bad sides of it.
Absolutely. On the one hand, imagine manifesting your desires, healing yourself, even impacting global events with just your thoughts. It's a pretty amazing idea, but also a little scary, right?
More than a little. Like, what if your thoughts are negative? Could you accidentally cause something bad to happen?
That's the big cautionary tale. If you believe our thoughts shape reality, then you have to accept that it goes both ways, positive and negative. That opens up a whole other can of worms, ethically speaking.
It's a lot of responsibility to handle. So how do we even know what's true when it comes to quantum kinesis?
That's the million-dollar question. There is some research being done on consciousness and its connection to the quantum world, but we are a long way from any definitive answers.
So maybe don't bet the farm on it just yet.
Probably not the best idea. But even if we can't fully explain it scientifically, the potential of the mind-body connection is huge. Whether it's at the quantum level or not, the idea that our thoughts and beliefs can influence our health, our lives, that's something worth paying attention to, right?
Totally. It's like they say, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Okay, so we've talked about the theory, the quantum side of things. But how does this Resonance Reborn program actually work in practice?
Well, that's the interesting part, and it's where things get a little more, shall we say, structured.
Yeah.
They've actually laid out a very specific 21-day program to help you integrate these quantum principles into your life.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back and ready to dig into this Resonance Reborn program. You said it's 21 days, but what does that actually look like? Like, am I giving up coffee and going off the grid on day one?
Actually, they're pretty big on easing into it. They get that overhauling your whole life overnight isn't really, doable for most people. So they break the 21 days into 3 phases: grounding and centering, building resonance, and then mastering resonance.
Okay, so it's more about building habits over time.
Exactly. It's supposed to be like sustainable, not overwhelming.
Got it. So let's break it down. What's involved in this grounding and centering phase?
So this first part is all about reconnecting with yourself and, kind of surprisingly, nature. Remember how we were talking about our bodies being in this constant exchange of energy with the environment?
Right, the whole quantum resonance thing.
Yeah. So grounding is about literally connecting with the Earth's energy to get that stability and balance. They suggest things like walking barefoot on grass, spending time outside, even using grounding mats if you're stuck indoors.
Interesting. And I'm guessing they'd say even that has a quantum effect on our bodies.
Oh, absolutely. They think it helps harmonize our frequencies with the Earth's, and that's supposed to bring on this sense of calm.
Like hitting the reset button on our internal energy?
Exactly. And they say that grounding is super important for setting the stage for the rest of the program.
Makes sense. You got to build the foundation, right?
Right.
Okay, so once we're grounded and centered, what's next? This building resonance phase.
This is where they get into the good stuff. The Tai Chi, breath work, mindful eating, all those energy balancing things we were talking about.
So like fine-tuning our bodies to hit that perfect resonant frequency.
Exactly. This phase is all about actually doing those practices. They give you specific Tai Chi movements, breathing exercises, even guided meditations, all aimed at getting that energy flowing smoothly.
So we're actively cultivating resonance, not just waiting for it to happen.
Yes, and they believe that by practicing consistently, we can train ourselves to access that state more easily,
Wow.
and that leads to, more energy, better health, even a heightened awareness of like everything.
It all ties back to that mind-body connection again, which makes me think about quantum kinesis, that idea that our thoughts can influence reality. Do they connect those ideas to this phase at all?
They do, yeah. A big part of this phase is about cultivating positive intentions. They argue that by combining these energy practices with focused thought, we can actually get better at manifesting what we want, making positive changes.
So it's not just about moving our bodies, it's also about being aware of our thoughts.
Yes, aligning your actions, your thoughts, and your intentions, that's where the real power comes in.
That's pretty profound when you think about it. Okay, so that brings us to the final phase, mastering resonance. What does it look like to actually master this whole quantum wellness thing?
This last part is all about integration, taking everything you've learned, all the tools and techniques, and making them part of your everyday life.
So it's not just a 21-day thing, it's meant to be a lifestyle change.
That's the idea. They give you advice on how to bring these principles into your relationships, your work, even your spirituality. The goal is to get to a point where living this way just feels natural.
Okay, but how do you actually do that? It's one thing to read about it, but making it stick in the real world is tough.
Right, and they emphasize that it's about baby steps, consistency. They give you journaling prompts, little rituals, even recipes to make it easier to, stay on track.
So finding what works for you and building from there.
Exactly. They're big on the idea that there's no one right way to do this quantum wellness thing. It's about experimenting, listening to your body, and figuring out what resonates with you.
Well, I gotta say, this has been quite the deep dive. What are your final takeaways? What do you hope people listening will get out of all of this?
Even if you're not totally sold on the whole quantum thing, this program highlights things that have always been good for us.
Yeah.
Mindfulness, connecting with nature, really paying attention to our bodies, understanding the power of our thoughts. Those are all valuable no matter what you believe.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that we're more than just our physical selves. We're energy, and that energy connects us to everything around us. And this ebook, whether you agree with all of it or not, it offers a really interesting perspective on how to tap into that energy to live a healthier, happier life. Thanks for joining us for this quantum journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.